When you are faced with a challenge, when you are stressed, when you are pushed beyond your normal limits, how will you respond? How will you respond to that situation? Whether it is in battle, whether it is in business, whether it is in sports, any type of competition, how will you respond physically and mentally when you are pushed beyond your normal limits and stressed and presented with a tremendous challenge in front of you? The answer is you will respond at the level at which you train. Whatever level you train at, that is the level that you will go to in those times. This is one of the reasons why it's so important to train in life for whatever you do for work or whatever you do as your sports. It doesn't really matter. Because that level that you train at is what you will go to in the hardest of times. In this precept, as we discuss what Musashi was talking about, what did he mean by do not collect weapons? Weapons are not, basically he's saying weapons are not something for sport. They are tools for war. What did he mean? We're going to dive into this deeper and get a better understanding as to what Musashi may have meant in both a literal and a metaphorical way. There was a scene from a movie where a general was being spoken to by another senior officer, and the senior officer said, "I would like to show you some of the memorabilia that I have from a past wars that were fought, shots that were fired from muskets, old World War I style memorabilia and weapons that were used." And he had them framed. And the general looked at them, and this other senior officer was presenting them and saying, "Look at my amazing collection of weapons." And the general who had fought wars looked at them and said, "I see in front of me tools of death. I see tools that are used to fight battles and to win battles, to kill the enemy before they kill you. They're not something to be collected. They're not something to be shown as shrines. They are tools to be utilized." And I think this speaks directly to what Musashi was discussing. And again, I want to look at this precept in both a metaphorical and a literal sense. We are now speaking in the literal sense. I don't believe that Musashi saw value in adorning the walls of a home with weapons of war. Why? Because he had fought in wars with these weapons. He utilized them as tools, and he also, most importantly, he saw the damage that they could do. He saw the destruction that could happen from the use of these weapons. These were not something to be shown as something to brag about, as a piece to show, look at this fancy weapon. They were an item, a tool that brought end to someone's life as a needs to an end in a battle. Not something to be collected, not something to be used as sport or as playthings. Let's speak metaphorically. I believe there was another side to this precept. I believe Musashi was also speaking from an emotional side as well as the literal sense of the collecting of weapons of war. And it reminded me of a real life situation that occurs with the U.S. Marine Corps. The U.S. Marine Corps is divided into essentially three separate categories. One category is underway, ready to fight at all times. Another category is resting from battle. They're on vacation and they're visiting their families. And the third group is training, preparing to take that first group position to be ready to fight. So they're constantly in these three stages. Whether you are deployed and ready to fight, you are resting from that deployment, or you are training up, preparing for that deployment. And I believe this plays a role in what Musashi was saying. That the rest period away from battle is just as important as your mindset in the battle. And this is true for all things in life. We have to take the time to be on vacation. We have to take the time to rest from battle and from work, because it's important for our body and it's important for our mind. In the world of information technology, it is a best practice to make sure that those that work for you go on vacation. Why would that be? Because it rests the body and it rests the mind. It is a healthy part of life to step away from work and away from battle and to rest yourself so that you recharge. Then you go into a train-up phase and you prepare to re-enter the workforce. And I think that was a part of what this precept meant. There is a time for battle, but there is also a time for peace. There is a time to rest. So if you make your whole life about the utilization of weapons, the utilization of work, again, to speak metaphorically, to nothing but work, then you don't have that balance in life and you don't have that time of rest, which is so important. To speak in a literal sense of this precept, to understand that the weapons that are used in battle are important tools for victory. You train with them to prepare for battle. You then utilize them in battle. They are not toys. They are not something to be collected. They are not something to be adorned on the walls. And this is very true with today as well. When you think about those that carry some sort of a weapon every day as part of their life, part of their job, it changes their perception of this. It is not something that is recreational. I would even point towards those who hunt for sustenance, those who hunt game to cook and eat for them and their family. They don't look at their weapons as being some sort of a recreational toy, but instead they understand that it is a tool, it is a utility to create food for them and their family. And I think it is a much more practical sense. So again, we are now speaking the literal sense of this precept, not the metaphorical sense. There was a time in my life, younger, through my 20s, into my 30s, when I carried a firearm as a point of duty, as a part of my job, in both military, law enforcement, and when I worked in the counterterrorism field. During that time in my life, the training constantly with varieties of weapons, the use of these weapons in your job, both in training and in action of your work. It did not feel right to treat these as a toy or as a sport or as some sort of recreational tool. And as time went on, and as I moved on into later careers, further on into IT career, and then into retirement, I don't see the collection of these tools for recreational or for memorabilia. They still remain tools. They still remain something that is functional. I think that is a healthy and responsible way to look at weapons in general. It is a responsible and mature way to understand them. I hope that you have thought a little bit about this precept, and I thank you for spending some time discussing it. I'm interested in what you think of this precept. What are your thoughts on this idea of collecting or the recreational use of weapons in the day-to-day world today? Put down in the comments what your thoughts are. What are your ideas of this precept? Where do you think Musashi was going with this? We have spoke on the metaphorical and on the literal thoughts of this matter. What are your thoughts? We will continue on every Saturday to look at a different precept and to discuss it. I hope you're enjoying your weeks as well in between, and we will talk again soon, and aloha.